I woke up to a silent house. The kind of silence that feels almost eerie, like the world had hit the mute button. No hum of the refrigerator, no glow of my alarm clock. It was as if the house itself was holding its breath. Just the faint light of dawn creeping in, casting long shadows and painting the room in soft hues of orange and pink. My first thought? Power outage. It seemed like the most logical explanation. No biggie, I thought, happens all the time. I mean, who hasn't experienced a blackout now and then? Little did I know this was no ordinary blackout. This was something much more serious. This was going to be a 7-day test of my survival skills. 7 days to adapt, to overcome, to survive. 7 days without the conveniences of modern life. No microwave, no coffee maker, no internet. 7 days to face the wild, in my own home. It was a daunting thought, but also an exciting one. Now I've braved the wilderness countless times, faced down lions, wrestled crocs, even drank my own pee, for survival, folks. I've been through some pretty intense situations, but this was different. This was a new kind of challenge. This was survival in suburbia, a place where the wildest thing you might encounter is a stray cat. And honestly, I was kind of pumped. This was a chance to test my mettle in a whole new environment. This was a challenge I could sink my teeth into, a chance to get creative, to think outside the box. A chance to prove that the human spirit, the will to survive, can thrive even without electricity. Let the games begin. First things first, I needed to gather my supplies. Flashlights, batteries, candles, anything that could provide light. The flickering flame of a candle can be surprisingly comforting in the dark. Water was another priority. Without power, the electric pump wouldn't work, so I filled every container I could find. Food was next. Canned goods, dried fruits, nuts, anything that didn't require refrigeration or cooking. I even set up a small camping stove in the kitchen. It wasn't much, but it would do for boiling water and heating up meals. I decided to keep a journal of my experience, not just to pass the time, but to document my thoughts and strategies. As the sun set on that first day, I felt a mix of apprehension and excitement. This was just the beginning. That night, lying in the dark, I couldn't help but think about how much we take electricity for granted. The next morning I woke up to the sound of birds chirping. It was a small reminder that life goes on, even without power. I went through my morning routine as best as I could, brushing my teeth with a cup of water, washing my face with a damp cloth. Breakfast was simple, a piece of fruit, some nuts, and a cup of instant coffee made with hot water from the camping stove. I made a to-do list for the day. Staying busy was important, not just for practical reasons, but to keep my mind occupied. I spent the day reading, writing, and thinking. It was a slower pace of life, but not necessarily a bad one. As the days went by, I found myself adapting to this new way of life. It wasn't easy, but it was manageable. And in some ways, it was even rewarding. I felt a sense of accomplishment with each small victory. By the end of the 7 days, I had learned a lot about myself and my ability to adapt. When the power finally came back on, it was almost a shock. The hum of the refrigerator, the glow of the lights, it all felt so loud, but I knew that I had grown from the experience. I had proven to myself that I could survive, even thrive without the conveniences of modern life. And that, my friends, is the true power of the human spirit. No power, no problem. The first day was a comedy of errors. It was as if the universe had decided to play a practical joke on me. I had never realized how much I relied on electricity until it was gone. I tripped over the dog, who was just as confused as I was. Poor thing yelped and scampered off, probably wondering why his human was suddenly so clumsy. Then, in my disoriented state, I walked into a wall, not once but twice. It was like my house had turned into a maze overnight. And to top it all off, I nearly took out a window trying to find the coffee maker in the dark. My hands flailed around, knocking over anything in their path. It was a miracle I didn't break anything. My morning routine, usually a symphony of beeps and whirs, was now a cacophony of crashes and curses. The coffee maker, the toaster, even the microwave, all silent. It was like living in a different century. Right, I muttered to myself. Time to adapt. First things first. Light. I needed to see what I was doing before I caused any more damage. Luckily, I always have emergency candles stashed around the house. I lit them one by one, placing them strategically to illuminate the most important areas. The flickering light was a small comfort in the overwhelming darkness. Next, communication. My phone was already dying. No charging ports in the wilderness, folks. I had to conserve the battery for emergencies, so I dug out my trusty hand-crank weather radio. It was a relic from my camping days, but it still worked like a charm. I cranked it up and tuned into the local station. Information is key in a survival situation. The news wasn't good. The announcer's voice crackled through the static, delivering the grim update. A massive storm had knocked out power to the entire region. 7 days, they said. 7 days. I couldn't believe it. But then a sense of determination washed over me. Challenge accepted. I was going to get through this, one way or another. I took a deep breath and started planning my next move. This was just the beginning of an unexpected adventure. By day 2, the initial shock wore off, replaced by a primal instinct, adapt or, well, be uncomfortable. The first day was a blur of confusion and mild panic. I kept hoping the power would come back any minute, but as the hours dragged on, reality set in. This wasn't just a minor inconvenience, it was a test of resilience. And I don't do uncomfortable. I decided right then and there that I would not let this situation get the best of me. I would find a way to make this work, to turn this challenge into an opportunity. I rummaged through my garage, a treasure trove of forgotten tools and camping gear. It was like going on a scavenger hunt in my own home. I found things I didn't even remember owning, each item sparking a new idea for how to make life a bit easier. Out came the camping stove, the solar shower bag, even my old hand-crank flashlight. These items, once relegated to the back of the garage, suddenly became invaluable. The camping stove meant I could cook hot meals, the solar shower bag promised a semblance of hygiene, and the hand-crank flashlight ensured I wouldn't be left in the dark. Who knew hoarding could be so handy? Each item I unearthed felt like a small victory, a step towards reclaiming some normalcy. The backyard became my supermarket, a place where I could gather resources and create solutions. The backyard became my supermarket. I set up a little station where I could keep all my newfound treasures organized and easily accessible. I built a fire pit, essential survival skill, and cooked over an open flame. It was a skill I had learned years ago on a camping trip, never thinking I would need to use it in my own backyard. But here I was, gathering wood and kindling, carefully constructing a fire that would become my primary source of cooking. Turns out, food tastes better when you've worked for it. There was something incredibly satisfying about preparing a meal from scratch, using nothing but the basics. The smoky flavor of the food, the warmth of the fire, it all combined to create an experience that was both primitive and profoundly rewarding. I even rigged up a makeshift shower using a tarp and a garden hose. It wasn't luxurious by any means, but it got the job done. I felt a sense of pride every time I used it, knowing that I had created something functional out of sheer necessity. Sure, the water was cold, but hey, it was invigorating. Each icy blast was a reminder that I was alive, that I was capable of adapting and thriving even in less than ideal conditions. The point is, I was adapting, thriving even. Every challenge I faced became an opportunity to learn and grow. I was discovering strengths I didn't know I had, finding joy in the simplest of things, because when the power goes out, the survivor in you switches on. It's amazing what you can accomplish when you're pushed out of your comfort zone. You find creative solutions, you make do with what you have, and you come out stronger on the other side. This experience taught me that sometimes the greatest innovations come from the most challenging situations. Cooking without a kitchen. Embrace the primitive chef within. Now I'll be the first to admit I'm no Michelin star chef. But when survival's on the menu, you learn to get creative. My backyard became my kitchen, the fire pit my stove. I roasted vegetables wrapped in foil, grilled fish on skewers, and even baked bread in a Dutch oven over hot coals. It was primal, it was messy, and it was surprisingly delicious. Without the distraction of technology, I found myself savoring each bite, appreciating the simple act of nourishing my body. It was a good reminder that sometimes, the most basic things in life are the most satisfying. The night sky in all its glory, rediscovering the beauty above. With no streetlights or glowing screens to obscure the view, the night sky exploded in a breathtaking tapestry of stars. I lay on my back, mesmerized by the sheer vastness and brilliance above. It was humbling, awe-inspiring, and a little bit terrifying all at the same time. I traced constellations I hadn't seen since I was a kid, sharing stories of the stars with my family. In that moment, disconnected from the digital world, we were truly connected to something bigger than ourselves. It was a powerful reminder that sometimes the greatest adventures are right above our heads.